Welcome to Wednesday, the 20th day of November 2024. This DayWeather podcast brought to you by Converse County Tourism. Douglas and Glen Rock, Wyoming are bustling with action this holiday season. Plan your excursion, including fun activities, beautiful downtowns, and historic treasures. Learn more at conversecountytourism.com. Well, folks, it is going to still be rather brisk with the wind across many areas of the Rockies and the High Plains today, but as that northern plains storm heads a little bit more off to the east, we'll see temperatures moderating a little bit, but we're still going to have to deal with some very gusty winds, especially out on into the plains. But the general trend for the next few days in many areas of the interior west will be high pressure, but high pressure is going to be bookended by a deep storm in the Great Lakes and this powerful storm that's spinning off the Pacific Northwest coast. And it's going to be very, very stormy in the Pacific Northwest, then along the West Coast, as the storm is kind of spinning around, not really moving much, at least for the next couple of days. So the coast will just be pounded, along with the interior mountains there just along the coast. But the interior west will be under some high pressure. But that same storm in the Pacific Northwest begins to get elongated, and a strong, moist Pacific jet stream wind just drives itself into the west and the Rockies late this weekend into early next week, bringing some winter weather. So we did see some snow flurries across the High Plains and Rockies yesterday, as evidenced by that shot there near Burns, and then an awesome shot of the snow flurry activity on the backside of that northern plains low coming into the region. So we did have some snow showers, snow flurry activity all the way back into the Upper Platte Valley there near Saratoga and over the mountain areas. But now that high pressure ridge is going to kind of want to sneak its way in very briefly. But here are the two weather makers. The deep low over the northern plains, the counterclockwise rotation bringing that colder Canadian air in, and that tight gradient right here causing a lot of wind. Incredible winds right now are occurring. They did occur yesterday, but extremely strong winds off the Pacific Northwest coast with this deep, cold storm there spinning around just northwest of Seattle there, with high pressure in the eastern Pacific and out there in the Atlantic, kind of bottling up and keeping it quite stormy over this part of North America. Look at that satellite image. The satellite image from yesterday afternoon was even more impressive, but this really shows the intensity and the organization of that storm. Notice it's not really moving very much east, and it really won't. It's going to kind of move around, and see the storm is drawing in moisture from a very, very long distance across the Pacific, and very cold, moist, unstable air is sitting under this system. So that's going to continue to drive a lot of precipitation in the Pacific Northwest. You can see the high pressure and the clear skies here. Then there's the low pressure over the northern plains. So if you're underneath this little teepee here I just drew, thank your lucky stars, because you're looking at relatively pretty decent weather, albeit kind of windy. There's the radar this morning. You can see the precipitation getting driven into Northern California, Washington, and Oregon. Even some moisture getting east of the Cascades there. Moving into eastern Washington, into western Idaho. That shows you the strength and the intensity of the moisture there. Still a good snow field on the back side of that low up in southern Canada and the Dakotas. This storm is going to come in and blow up into the Great Lakes and become a strong storm system. There it is. This is by noon tomorrow. This is going to really wrap up and become quite a deep Great Lakes storm going through the region there and into the Northeast, giving those folks their first taste of winter. There's our little high pressure ridge. Notice the low hasn't moved much at all over the next 24 hours. This is going to kind of spin up there. But what will happen is this very tight gradient that's right there tomorrow going into the Pacific Northwest and Southwest Canada is going to slowly migrate south as we get into Friday and Saturday, as you'll see here in a minute. So this whole area of strong jet stream winds, as we showed you, is pulling moisture off the Pacific right into the continent. Look at the wind gusts between now and Saturday morning. So still very windy out here on the plains, and that's associated with snow up there. Still very windy along the I-80 corridor and along the Continental Divide. Look at these winds off the coast. So you're looking at wind gusts. These are wind gusts. They'd be over 100 miles an hour. This is a very, very intense storm system and very strong winds getting pretty far inland as well. So you can see that these two systems really mean business. Look at these Great Lake winds. Very strong winds. They're not used to that. So that's nothing for us, but this is going to be very impactful if you've got travel anywhere in the part of this U.S. right here in the coming days, next 24 to 48 hours. Do expect some airport delays. So the precipitation between now and Saturday morning looks like this. The high pressure ridge protecting this area, the storminess in the northeast, the storminess in the Pacific Northwest, still snow falling in Saskatchewan and Manitoba up there, and snow starting to pile up here in Canada. As we mentioned that yesterday, that's a player down the road if you get a big snowfield that ends up staying up there. This is the snow forecast between now and Saturday morning. So this really sets us up here for the next few days. But when we go into the latter part of the weekend and early next week, we go into the next phase. So by Saturday morning, I mentioned that gradient will be heading further south. There it is. It's going into central and northern California. The low is headed up into New England. The flow gets flattened out a little bit, and we just start to see this very tight gradient coming in. That gets stretched out by Saturday night into Sunday morning. As we mentioned yesterday, on the face value of this, this doesn't look like much. But what happens here is cold air leaks in out of Canada and sort of seeps its way down along and east of the divide on the ground. But on top of the colder air on the ground, strong jet stream winds and very moist jet stream winds go up and over that. And when we take a look at the jet stream wind, so this is at 30,000 feet. This is by Saturday morning. So you can look at the wind speeds here with this jet stream wind in knots. This very, very strong. So this comes in, will pile up the snow in the central and northern Sierras quite a bit. And what happens, let's loop the jet stream and we'll zoom in a little bit. So what will happen is you can see where it rides, comes in and moves very slightly east-southeast, but there's a very persistent area of very strong winds aloft over the same area. And keep in mind that with those very strong winds aloft, you're getting the pipeline of moisture coming in. If you watch over time, you can see it get elongated, get stretched out, and pushed on through. So this is your classic atmospheric river type situation coming together and coming on into the interior, deeper into the interior. When you have very strong winds aloft, that causes not only a horizontal gradient of motion, strong winds west to east, so to speak, but you also get lift vertically. So you're also lifting the atmosphere. And when you lift the atmosphere, you're going to cool and possibly condense all of that blue and dark purple and green you're seeing there, that water vapor that's in the air. When you lift it, you can condense it and turn it into precipitation. So you get strong lifting mechanisms from these strong jet stream winds, but you also have to push that air uphill over the mountains of the west. And so this is what you end up with. This is for the 5-day period, basically from Saturday through Tuesday. So you can see the heavy precipitation into California, but along that axis, which is going to be right here, where those strong jet stream winds aloft come in like this, you're going to get precipitation, and it's going to be heavy in the mountainous terrain, whether it's the Wasatch, the mountains of Colorado, the mountains of Nevada here. Look at the Sierra Nevada, the mountains of Idaho. You're going to see significant moisture. And leaking out into the plains, we get what's called overrunning. That colder air will leak in and get up along the divide. So you're going to get heavy overrunning snows in south central Canada. It's really going to be piling up with these two systems up there. And you may, in the Front Range areas, along the I-25 corridor, we'll see, but there could be an overrunning event where we get a little bit of snowfall late in the weekend and into early next week. But certainly the mountains are going to catch that. So this will be an interesting pattern to watch. And then as we go into next week and watch it unfold, there's going to be more to this story in terms of the interactions between what's out in the Pacific and the colder air that's getting more widespread and deeper in Canada. So stay tuned. There'll be plenty of weather to watch. And this is what the snowfall forecast looks like from Saturday through Monday. Look at these snow totals in Canada from the overrunning. Heavy, significant snows. This will be getting the ski areas. All the ski areas of the west will be happy to probably see a pretty significant snow event. This is a good pattern for the mountains and the ski areas of the west to be picking up that snow that builds up a nice early season base. Have yourself a good Wednesday. We'll have more for you tomorrow.